Hey, and welcome back to another segment here on GEMS podcast. With me in the hot seat is my special guest, Gina Uricchio, and here is a bit about Gina. Gina Uricchio is a mother, visionary, and yogi. Creating connection is the cornerstone of her parenting and personal style. Meditation and yoga have been instrumental while raising a family alongside her husband, John, especially meeting the challenges of a special needs child. Gina installs stillness, resilience, and surrender every day as a warrior mom. She lives with her family in Connecticut and enjoys the many seasons of New England, especially summer. When not at home, you can find her at the beach savoring a cup of coffee or exploring a local farmer's market. So, without further ado, please welcome Gina, where her and I will be unpacking intuitive motherhood, autism, as well as how she balances between art and yoga.
Good morning.
Good morning, Gina. Thank you so much for being here today. And I definitely want to connect with you on a personal level so my audience gets to know you a bit better. And I like to do that one or two ways. The first option is we could do an icebreaker, or the second option, we could do a rapid fire 10 question game. What are you in the mood for?
Ooh, I'll take the rapid fire.
Okie dokie, we're doing rapid fire with Gina and Genesis. Double G's, y'all. So, question number one, if you could have any superpower, what would it be and why?
Oh, I would like to be able to fly. And why? Just so I could get anywhere at a moment's notice and check in on especially my girl.
Question number two, you just won the lottery. There is a kicker. You must donate to three charities of your choice before the funds are fully released. What charities are you donating to?
I would donate to autism charities. If you want specifics, I would do Autism Speaks for sure. I would donate to breast cancer awareness, the Breast Friends Fund in Connecticut, which helps women with metastatic breast cancer. And I would donate to the Children's Hospital here in Connecticut as well, just for all children and their well-being.
Amazing. Question three, dream car, dream home, or both?
Say it again.
Question three,
Oh,
dream
dream car.
car, dream home, or both?
Oh, dream home. Dream home.
Question four, coffee or tea or neither?
Coffee all the way.
Question five, if you could recreate any significant moment in your life, what would it be?
Recreate. Probably. Okay. Recreating a significant moment. Allie's graduation day from her. From her school, from the school system entirely. Yeah.
Six, what's your happy place?
My front steps.
Seven, if you could have lunch or dinner with any person, past or present, who would it be?
My father.
Oh, that's my answer too. Eight, if you could be a fly on the wall and listen in on any conversation, past or present, what conversation are you listening to?
I would love to be in a conversation or listen to a conversation with Temple Grandin.
Okay,
Yeah. Do you know who she is?
No, I don't.
Yeah. She's an autistic woman who has been just real successful in her advocacy throughout her life of her journey with autism, and her recognizing how autistics work in the world and using their gifts going forward in different opportunities, and not looking at as and definitely looking at it as abilities versus disability.
I think
Claire Danes played her in the movie Temple Grandin, and I think
oh,
she won the Oscar for. She definitely won something for it, the Golden Globe or the Oscar. Yeah.
wow, that is amazing. And thank you for sharing that. I just had on the creator of Autism Rocks and Rolls not too long ago, and he shared his journey with autism as well as some of the elite people that he has had on his show that are open about autism that have huge platforms. So feel
Mm.
free to check that out. His name is Sam Mitchell.
Oh,
And
I'd love to check that out.
yeah, so it was interesting because he shared his journey dealing with autism, going through the school system, and then now just what led him to starting his own podcast and et cetera. And I think that was just commendable, just hearing the stories. And I was like, it's like autism is his superpower.
Certainly is. It's just, we just don't, we on the outside just don't know how to, um, appreciate those superpowers. It's a practice.
Absolutely. And question 9, what is your favorite quote or mantra that keeps Gina going?
I have to say, I have to quote my daughter, Allie, party hats on.
You should have had a party hat to cue that one, like,
Yeah. And I can explain that further as we go into our conversation, but that's one of her favorite sayings, and how I really started the creative work in pulling together our experience here together, mine and my daughter's,
and
with all
question.
her little cute sayings and things. And so, party hats on. It can mean a lot of things.
That is super cool. So yeah, I definitely want to dive into that at
Yeah,
so question 10, it's our pass or play question, Gina. And here are the rules. If you pass, our roles are reversed for this question, and you get to ask me a question. If you choose to play, I ask one last question to wrap up. Rapid fire. So do you want to pass or play?
I'll play.
Okie dokie. What is one thing about Allie and yourself that make y'all both wild card factors?
Mm, Wild card factors. We're magicians.
Really?
Well, I mean that in the sense of magic, where we literally pull quarters out behind our ears. But I think Allie and I can take any situation and just put magic into it, and exit the situation feeling more effervescence, and sprinkling as much positivity and optimism into even the most craziest experiences.
That is amazing, Gina. And thank you so much for playing Rapid Fire. So I hope that gives the audience a little glimpse into your personal journey because I always think that it's good to break the ice and get the audience relaxed and at ease at what's coming next. So let's dive into the meat and potatoes, which is intuitive motherhood, your passion for autism, and then one of the things that you practice is art and yoga, and that's a way to balance everything that's going on. So let's start with autism first, then we're going to go into motherhood.
Sure.
So, or we could do them both together. So, whenever you first found out that Allie was diagnosed with autism, what was your first reaction?
My first reaction, I think, was when she was diagnosed intuitively, and we begin the journey there in motherhood. I intuitively had connected to this autism, the word, entering my environment when Allie was about 9 months old, maybe 6 months old. So when I got her diagnosis, I was actually, it was an affirmation. It was an affirmative what I was intuitively journeying in my heart. So I was okay. I was at ease.
Thank you for
Mm,
for sharing that because 6 to 9 months is very young. So you never question like, are you sure my daughter is really autistic or what's the difference there? Because that seems like very young to really know if a kid is going to be
mm,
autistic. I am not a subject matter expert there, but I'm just having questions just from
mm,
getting ready to walk
sure.
into motherhood and working with other parents and kids who are autistic, and some are on the low end of the spectrum, some are high functioning, and etc.
It was I wouldn't say that I didn't question myself, but I also stayed very close to my intuitive. I was new at mothering. She is our first child. So behaviorally, we look to others in our family, when we go through first, like, did this happen to you when you did that? Did this happen to you when you went through this? And with Allie, I was present with her, and she wasn't at 6 months, say, reaching certain milestones, nonverbal milestones, and some verbal milestones, but mostly it was the nonverbal gestures that weren't happening for her. So I would sort of review it in my mind and then maybe reach out to my parents and say, did I do this? Did this happen? But then I would question, the word, oh, just wait. Soon she's going to be pushing around the grocery cart, and then she's going to be picking up, playing store and playing pretend and doing all these things. And so I have to say I waited quietly, but all the while intuitively was quietly discovering that and learning more about autism, which back in 1997 was like the back of what to expect when you were expecting. There was like the index, and I was like, autism. And then I would shut the book. And then I would open it back up and I'd say autism, page 297, like this much about autism. And then I would look at it, and it wasn't like we had the internet where we were, oh, autism. It was, you got to go to the library, you got to look up stuff. So it was definitely an intuitive journey with myself, and I kept it quiet. But I was very vocal about how I felt about how she wasn't reaching the milestones with her pediatricians and my husband and my family.
And thank you for sharing that because sometimes whenever parents get the diagnosis that there is something going on with their child, they're first in denial. That's the first phase because they don't want to believe or come to terms that that happens. Because, let's be honest, doctors are human beings and they do make mistakes and everything is not going to be perfect. And you want the best for your child. So, how do you feel whenever they put your child on the spectrum? Because there's different parts of the spectrum, and do you feel like with the right help and support that that kid can move up the spectrum or move down? And feel free to reframe that question, Gina, if it makes it easier for the audience.
I think that there is the first frightening moment of the bigness of autism and how it comes into your house and just places itself not just in a little quiet corner, but it covers the whole environment, and it trickles into not only your own nuclear unit, but also your extended family, and changes everything. And the spectrum is very wide. And I would say that, if you've met one child with autism, you've met one child with autism, just as you and I are very unique individuals. There's no one like you, there's no one like me. And the spectrum has many characteristics of where people might fall in their diagnosis of what they will and cannot, and what they can become and what they will not do. I think for families, it's always in to remain positive, because there's that hopelessness that is always underneath, that there is a grief there in grieving a child that you thought you were going to have versus the child that you have. And I would say the biggest thing for the families is not to attach yourself to whether they're mildly effective, moderately effective, or you know, deeply affected by the autistic diagnosis. And really what they are going to do now is just enter their journey. And my my family's motto was sort of always like, we will inject magic in this experience. We will find our way out of tunnels. We will go through so many eyes of the needle where we're like barely threading through sometimes, like we're waiting for the plane to land because there is no Wi-Fi and the whole plane is upset, you know. But we call on that person inside of us, and you really do become a superhero. So you call on that person inside of you, that the one that you have to bust through the blocks. You have to collect yourselves in that like virtual telephone booth, and then you just emerge like 100 times your size, because you have to be that giant
Mm.
in the world as an advocate. You have to just take up space for this person. And when you look at it that way, you can, there's got to be a way that as parents and as caregivers, we can enjoy our journey as well. And that, I'm committed to that. I'm committed to that.
And I love as you're talking about it, you're lighting up, you're smiling, and you're talking about the joy that Allie brings, and not just a
Mhm.
burden or a contingency with your lifestyle, since it may not be conducive. I love the power that you're speaking on, because everyone's journey is different whenever it comes to dealing with a child that is facing autism or dealing with it, because your journey is not going to be like someone else's. But one thing that really keeps resonating with me is the fact that you were so intuitive and you listened to that still small voice.
Mhm.
You followed your gut instinct and you said, okay, this is happening to us, but it's also happening for us. And it brought you and your family closer. And the bond that you share with Allie, as well as the bond that John shares with her, is going to be totally different. But for her to know that she is in a loving environment, that's also going to help her thrive. And now let's talk about art and yoga, because that is
Mhm.
what you do to balance everything that is going on. And I feel like sometimes whenever a parent is dealing with a child with special needs, they need to have a respite night. They need to have some time off. They need to have a way to practice self-care so they don't feel like the weight is on their shoulders, because it's not easy. And I'm not going to say that I understand what you and John are going through, because I don't, Gina, but I do know that there are parents out there who need to know that there is a loving community that supports the journey.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, you can look for chunks of space or a special versus a whole day where you have in front of you, as calling it respite. But because we're on a 24/7 clock here, and you as a new mom will know about that 24/7 clock. And all parents are on a 24/7 clock. Look, my son just graduated college and now he's back home, and it's sort of like, okay, we're not showering at 2 in the morning and starting the laundry at midnight. Like there's certain things that go on, but you still have this, you're still sort of teaching them, and the parent brain is still awake. No matter how hard you try to shut it down, you're like, the laundry's on, or I hear the shower. But I find that the biggest thing that I can do for myself really is, you know, every day every day becomes another blank slate, and I have my responsibilities. I have my advocacy that I have to do for her every day. She attaches herself with her coaches and her caregivers and whoever's taking her out in the world to shine, right? And give her best self. And when she goes, it's like this double-edged sword where she leaves and she's out there living her best life. It's my turn. Even if it's going to be, you know, she goes out and she's at the mall and she's going to do a mall walk and then she's going to come back in. If I've got an hour or 45 minutes or 4 hours, what am I going to do for my best to live my best life? So I don't get, you know, there's a resentfulness that can come, you know, because I'm sending her out in the world to do all these beautiful things like art and yoga and walking the mall and stopping at the pretzel place and, you know, going to the fall, you know, the waterfalls and strawberry and blueberry picking and painting pottery and all these beautiful things that she's doing and trying to volunteer. And so how can I'm making that possible for her. So if I can make that possible for her, I can make that possible for myself. And there's no reason why I, as a woman, as, you know, as a mother, as a sister, as a daughter, as a friend, can't have that. And
Yeah,
I just, again, I'm committed to finding ways of having that, even if it's, you know, the 15-minute, you know, tea time, whatever fuels you. It doesn't have to be tea. It doesn't have to be coffee. It doesn't have to be walking. It doesn't have to be, it can be painting. It can be sitting. It can be watching your favorite show. It can be gardening. I mean, you start to take inventory of what am I really doing with the time that I have?
absolutely. And that's a good point because sometimes whenever you become a mother and then you have other complexities that are going on, it's like you focus all your time and energy on your child and you forget about yourself. You forget about your other roles and responsibilities, like you're a wife, you're a mother, you are Gina, most importantly, and you have other hats that you wear, and you have to have a balance because when we don't have a balance, we burn ourselves out. And what good are we going to be to those who depend on us if we're in a period of burnout? So, getting real with yourself and then also the
Mhm.
people that are near you is so important as you begin to, just walk out the journey of life because every day is not going to be the same. You're going to have days where you kind of feel like blah and etc. But the most important thing is to get back up each day and know that today I'm going to strive to be better than yesterday. And I love that you give Allie some time so Allie can be Allie and she could be her own person. And then your son is his own person. So I want to ask a question here because this pertains
Mm.
to intuitive mothering. So Allie and your son, they're two different children. So did Allie's diagnosis ever play into your son feeling like he was neglected or he didn't have that much energy or whatever the case may be? Because sometimes kids who have a sibling that's on the spectrum, they feel like they are, not seen and heard in a sense.
I think that, you know, I bring in my faith right now, which is really, um, I think, in the cornerstone of this whole journey, that Johnny, my son, is so perfectly placed in this family as a brother to Allie. Um, and he just displayed that braveness and that readiness inside himself, that he knew what he was going to be a part of and how he was going to grow in this household. And I have to say, I didn't have to really do too much for him. He he characteristically just is genuinely perfectly placed in this in this family. And so obviously he was young, and there were times where he was like, why, if she doesn't have to go, why do I don't have to go? Or why do I have to go if she doesn't want to go? And he was embarrassed, and looked down upon, as far as like in a public setting, where if Allie was having some moments, and why are we like this? What is happening? We were lucky to always have some sort of person always emerge with kindness, come around, whether it was for him or myself or for Allie. And I think that is how he learned, by sort of observing, because he's an observer. So he is a huge observer participant. So he would observe first and then participate. And so again, very young, he was using his intuitive gifts. So this family of mine is very intuitive, and he actually kept himself safe by using his intuitive gifts. So before he would enter in, he would make sure it was safe for him. He ended up writing his college essay on it, and he just recently wrote a blog on our website about being a brother and having a sister like Allie, and what she has actually taught him about how how she's taught him to really do whatever it is that he loves, and not to worry about what other people think. And that doesn't mean that he doesn't have compassion and kindness about his actions, but so we always installed a real life situations for Johnny, but I have to say he made it easy.
That is amazing just to hear you talk about Johnny and talk about Allie, because they both sound like rock stars. And what's the age gap between Johnny and Allie?
So they're 22 months. So I was pregnant with Johnny when Allie was 15 months old, and that's when we started seeing a developmental pediatrician. So I just found out I was pregnant with Johnny. So it was sort of like, I'm pregnant and I'm getting, going through this developmental thing. And by the time Johnny was born, we have a program here in Connecticut called Birth to 3. And I had gotten Birth to 3 to start coming in right when he was born, to give Allie speech therapy and OT and play therapy. And we were learning, we started to learn about what it is to be on the spectrum, and how to, employ ourselves and our family members if they were interested in being a part of the journey, because that's the extended support system as you move outward outside of myself and John, and now Johnny, who's an adult. He's born into it. He's born into being a sibling, and then ultimately being a caregiver of sorts. So we're careful not to put all that on him right now, obviously. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And as we begin to wind down, our last question before the CTA is there anything else that we didn't cover that you think is important for the audience to know about your personal journey with autism, intuitive mothering, and balancing via art and yoga?
Yeah, I think basically it's to keep showing up when you can't even, you don't think you can go any further. It's the true path of the open heart. That's what comes from my yoga practice. Just to be present, and allow yourself to receive the huge amount of love that this person brings into your life. And I think the biggest lesson is to be the student when you're sure they're the teacher.
Love it. I love that because I always believe if we're not learning, then we're not growing. And Gina, I want you to leave the audience with your call to action for this segment, and then plug your website and social media handles.
Yeah, I would say that it's really merging yoga, our yoga practice, motherhood, and just real life experiences with creativity to truly, truly expose what it means to be in a house that houses autism and live vibrantly and install magic in your family life because you deserve it. All families deserve it.
Beautiful. And now, sorry, y'all. What is your social media handles and your
Mhm.
website?
The website is www.motherasana, ASANA.com. Instagram is at mother_asana, and Facebook we're at Mother Asana.
Amazing. And I want to thank you so much, Gina, for coming on and just sharing your journey with Allie, Johnny, and the work that you're doing on the forefront as well as behind the scenes. And all of your contact information will be in the show notes. Audience, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We're on 40 plus platforms. You could also see all things video on our YouTube channel, which is at Gems with Genesis Amaris Kemp. And lastly, but not least, I want to thank each one of you for supporting the guests that I bring on, as well as myself. Because of you, we are now ranked in the top 2% globally out of 2.8 million podcasts per www.listennotes.com. And I wouldn't have been able to do it without your support and the guests that come onto the platform. So I really want to thank you all. And that leads me to the big ask, which is sponsorships. If you are interested in sponsoring this podcast, where our mission is to bring educational topics, motivational and inspirational, while weaving in diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, we would love your support. You can find out more information by heading on over to genesisamariscamp.net or sending me an email at genesisamariscamp@gmail.com for more information. Until next time, peace, love, and lots of blessings. Have yourself an amazing day.